commonly hear, it kind of struck me when Doug Baldwin said some of the same things you said, where, basically his career was over and he went through a, state of depression because he didn't know what else to do with his life. All he ever knew his whole entire life is football, right? And so that brings me to this question. Why do you think pro athletes go through that? I don't know if you want to call it identity crisis and depression. And what do you think needs to happen to try and prevent it?
Well, I think the biggest reason is that for the majority of their life, they found success, fulfillment through their sport. We received scholarships because of how good we were at our sport. We received more attention based off how good we were at our sport. And then once that's over, you don't know that, like, you're kind of just cast aside, and there's no, you don't know where else you would get validation, since your whole identity has been wrapped up in what you did athletically. And then also a huge part of it, which I realized was, one, like you lose your identity, but two, there's a lack of community once you're no longer playing anymore.
Oh yeah. Oh, I could see that.
So for the better part of your life, also, you were always around teammates. You were always around coaches. You were told where to be, when to be there. You didn't really have to think about too much. Like, you knew what you were going to wear for the day all the time. So once that's gone, now you're no longer around the teammates. You're no longer just hanging out in the locker room. You no longer have coaches telling you what to do, where to be. And you have all this free time, unstructured, and you really don't know what to do with it because you never had that kind of time.
So it's about the brotherhood and camaraderie. It's lacking that camaraderie, basically.
Yeah. Once that community is gone, it's really tough to find support because there's not a lot of just regular people walking around every day that really understand what you're going through. As a professional athlete, there's a very few people that fit into that group. And if most of for me, it was tough to talk about because a lot of my friends were still playing. And so they didn't know what I was going through. And I didn't know how to talk to them about it because as an athlete, you can't really think about the end. Because you have to stay focused on trying to make the roster the next year, trying to get another contract. It's always just about moving forward, and no one really talks about the end, but very few athletes are able to basically retire or ride off into the sunset on their own accord. Like me, I left because I had a knee injury, but that's not uncommon for an athlete to have to retire based off an injury. And since it comes so abrupt, it's also a shock to the system.